Okay, let me put this around. Okay, John, you asked for it. You got it. Now I'm going to attempt here to do a batch of my double chocolate chip soft cookies. So far they've been pretty good. Now I made a batch here earlier, and I'm going to show you what they're supposed to look like here. They're going to end up like this. Nice and soft. Super good. Guarantee. Follow this recipe. You won't go wrong. They're really great cookies. Okay, what we have here is all the ingredients. I've pre-measured pretty much everything. You're gonna need brown sugar, some flour, salt, baking soda, vanilla, couple of eggs, couple sticks of margarine, chocolate chips. I like to grease my pans with lard. I like my good old trusty Black & Decker mixer, a nice little stainless steel bowl, and of course cookie sheets. These are not too expensive. Ones are like $1 at Dollar Tree. So before we get started, one thing I want to say is preheat your oven to about 375 degrees. And the reason I say start your oven up before you start putting these cookies together is because it only takes about 10 or 15 minutes to mix all this stuff together and have a batch of cookies ready to go in the oven. And so therefore you're going to want to have that oven hot when you're ready. Okay, the recipe in the cookbook calls for brown sugar and white sugar. I don't care to use both, but it does call for actually 10 teaspoons. Or is it more than that? Let's see here. No, let's see. I don't know. Anyway, I cut 2 teaspoons off the edge of 2 sticks of margarine, and you want them soft because you want it to mix well. And throw those in there. And get it all in there. Now, it calls for half a cup of brown sugar and half a cup of white sugar. Me, I like a whole cup of, and when you put your brown sugar in, make sure it's packed. It's not loose, otherwise it makes a big difference. Okay? Now the recipe in Better Homes and Gardens or Betty Crocker calls for 1 egg. I like to put in 2. I don't know, call me crazy, but I think it just makes it a little better. For one thing, it makes it, by the time you start adding all these other stuff, it gets to it. Now, calls for a half a teaspoon of salt. Now, a half teaspoon ain't much, but you got to put it in there. Also calls for half teaspoon of baking soda. Now, it's baking soda, not baking powder. So we'll put that in there. All right. Now I'm going to use my trusty Black & Decker and mix this up real good. And as you can see, with that margarine nice and soft, it blends real well. Now, another thing it calls for is a teaspoon of vanilla. I like to use real vanilla, but vanilla extract's fine, and it calls for a teaspoon, but I like a little extra, so I put in like 1.5, maybe a little more. I like the flavor of the vanilla. Now at this point here, you've basically got your cookie dough. You add your chocolate chips and you're pretty well done with it. But me, I gotta be different always. And so, I'm gonna add come on. I'm gonna add a third a cup of Hershey's cocoa. Okay? And we're going to mix that in because I like my chocolate chip cookies chocolate. And mix that in real good too. Now I've also found it doesn't matter what kind of chocolate chips you use. Those Nestle Tall House chips are just more expensive is all. Me, I buy these are from Dollar General. It calls for one package of chocolate chips. Not me. I put in 2 because I like a lot of chocolate chips in my cookies. So we'll dump a couple of those in there. Alright, now let's mix that up pretty good. That's another reason why I use 2 eggs. If you only use 1 egg, you're going to find your batter or your cookie dough starts getting really stiff. But if you put 2 eggs in, you're in pretty good shape. Now the next thing it calls for is they call for 1.5 cups of flour. I find that there's not really, I think you're better off with 1.25 cups. I got that measured out here too. So we'll mix that in. As you can see, this cookie dough is getting really stiff. That was one of the reasons why 2 eggs is much better than just 1. You don't want your cookie dough too stiff. You want to be able to mix that stuff good. Okay. That's not too bad. Ooh, cookie dough there. Good. Okay. Take that off. And next step is going to be greasing the pan and putting it in the oven. Okay. Now comes time to put them on your baking sheet. They say, oh, you know, grease your pan. You know, I like lard. I don't care. And it doesn't take a lot, as you can see. Smear a little lard across there. And grease your pan real good. Make sure you get all your surface greased down pretty good. Don't overdo it because otherwise you're going to be frying the bottom of your cookies in the oven. And you don't want that either. Okay. Keep a towel handy too. Now, with a spoon, you decide how big you want your cookies. Now I like a cookie about that size right there. Okay? And you go along and you just a blob of cookie dough. You don't have to be fancy or perfect or nothing like that. If you make them, the bigger you make them, the fewer you can get on your cookie sheet, but nothing fancy. going to make a smaller batch here. I'm probably going to be sorry because I've got them so big they'll probably run together, but that's alright. Cookies is cookies. It don't matter what shape they are. It's how they taste that counts. Okay. Alright. We got our first 8 cookies on the tray. Next step, they go into the oven. Okay, while the cookies were baking, which only takes about 8 minutes, I put together my next tray of them. I made them a little smaller, and I can get, this way I get about, as you can see, I get 12 to a tray. And so, the other ones are about ready to come out. Let's check it out and see how they come out. Okay. There we are. Okay. I forgot to turn the camera back on. So, I made a batch that's where there's a dozen cookies here. Works out a little better anyway. I know they don't look like they're done, but trust me, they are. Let them cool a few minutes before you take them off the cookie sheet. Because if you'll notice, you want to wad up. But, trust me, they are finished. They are done. But you gotta be careful taking them off the cookie sheet. But they are finished. They are done. You let these cool a little bit before you eat them. Now the baking time on these, if your oven is hot and up to temperature, should be between 8 and 9 minutes. If you bake them too long, it really doesn't hurt them that much. It's just that they come out crunchy. And we want soft cookies, not crunchy ones. And as you can see, these are some pretty good looking cookies. Let them cool for a few minutes, and I'll show you just what I'm talking about. Well, there you have it, my friends. Some pretty good chocolate chip cookies. Get this up here where I can. Alright. As you can see, they're nice and soft and chewy. And so good. If you overbake them a little, they'll just get a little crispy. If you underbake them, they're just going to end up chewy. You're going to have a hard time getting them off the pan. But 8, 9 minutes, I wouldn't go more than 10. And you'll have some really good cookies. Guaranteed.